Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of The Barefoot Genealogist. I am recording today's episode a little bit earlier than normal because I am at the National Genealogical Society's annual conference in Las Vegas, and at our normally scheduled time I will be speaking live to a group of librarians about how to tell fact from fiction in a family tree. So I've had to record today's episode a little bit early. What that means for those of you who typically watch our show live, it just means I won't be available on chat immediately following today's presentation. However, we have created this wonderful community of very helpful people, so feel free to hop on chat after the presentation, ask what questions you have, and I am sure that there will be people there who can help answer your question. I have a sneaking suspicion Russ Worthington will be there, and he is an expert at Family Tree Maker, and so if you have questions, I'm sure that he will be there to field those. If he's not, sorry I called you out, Russ. So today we are talking about Family Tree Maker again. I get a lot of requests for some help videos on Family Tree Maker, and we're going to talk specifically about web search, which is how to do searches from within Family Tree Maker out onto the internet. And I'm just going to show you how I do it and how to use some of the tools that are available. If you have more ideas or other ways you use it, that doesn't mean you're wrong and I'm right. It just means that you found what works for you. So this is just to hopefully inspire some of you to use some of the features a little bit more and show you what's available to do from within Family Tree Maker when you're searching for your family on the web. So let's dive in to today's presentation. I'm actually going to just hop right over here into my Family Tree Maker software. If you're not using Family Tree Maker, this might be a little bit new for you, and that's okay. Maybe you'll see something that is inspirational or exciting for you that you might be able to do that you haven't been able to do so far. I don't expect you to be able to read everything on my screen. I recognize that it's a little small. Make sure you've maximized your viewing window when you're watching this video. Make sure you're watching it on full screen so that you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. But the details about these people are probably not as important to you as where I go. So we're all familiar with the shaky leaves, which are these little green leaves that show up on people in our tree, and this happens online or in Family Tree Maker, where you can go and view actual source documentation, source records, and you can also view other people's family trees. Now, one of the things that some of you who are a little bit newer may not understand is that these hints are not every record that exists about your ancestor. They are only the records that Ancestry is fairly certain are your person based on the information you've provided, or they are records that other people may have attached to that person, thinking that they're the right person. You of course have to analyze them and decide for yourself if these are actually your family members or not. That's why they're called hints. So the hints are a good place to get started. But eventually you're going to need to search to fill in some of those gaps. We may hint, actually let's look at some of these hints for Alfred Lloyd here. If I click here, it's going to take me over to the web search tab automatically, and it's going to show me my hints in a list. And so here he is in an, let's see, there's 1840, 1850, 60, 70, and then the 1900 census. So right off the bat, what I can tell is missing is the 1880 census. So I will have to actually do a search to find that particular record. So it hints records that it can tell is my person fairly reasonably. I still am going to want to look at those records to determine if it is my person, but you'll notice there are sometimes gaps or missing records, and that happens for a lot of reasons. More often than not, it's because the census taker or the transcriptionist wrote the name wrong, or it's because the age is wildly off, and that can happen for any number of reasons. So you do still have to search. So here is how this works. When I come into my web search tab, let me just do that from a fresh page here. So if I'm here in my tree and I want to search for records about Alfred Lloyd, I can click on this web search tab. And if you've already been looking at hints, you might have to click this new search button over here. And if your search form looks like this, I'm going to encourage you to use the advanced web form or the advanced search form so that you have full control over all of your filters on every field so that you can decide what it is that you want searched. And I'm also going to just remind some of you, if you've been playing with your search filters, like if you've set them or checked things, marked things exact or not, whatever, sometimes we don't notice that some of those little filters have been changed. So whenever I do a new search, I just check this match all terms exactly box. I check it and then I uncheck it, and that just resets everything back to 0, right? Back to the default. So just check and uncheck this match all terms exactly box, and that will set everything back to default. Now I can scroll down here, and of course I'm using the collection priority of United States, and I've marked show only those records because this man was born in Tennessee and died in Texas, and so I don't need to see records from other places. And I'm going to go ahead and click search. And what this is doing is it's searching Ancestry.com, and you may recognize these search results. Actually, some of you may recognize these search results here a little bit better, right? So I've got this view up here where I can view everything sorted by relevance, which is this star system, or I can summarize it by category, which is actually how I prefer to view my search results, especially if I know I'm looking for something specific. So in this case, if I was looking, for example, for a marriage record for Alfred and Nancy, I would just sort by or summarize by category. I'm going to filter down to birth, marriage, and death. There's all those records. I'm going to filter down to the marriage record. He was born in Tennessee. They lived in Tennessee. I think their oldest child was born in Tennessee. So I'm going to check Tennessee state marriages for their marriage record. And there it is right there, that top record. Alfred Lloyd and Nancy Taylor, married December 25th, 1838 in Shelby County, Tennessee. I can actually click through and view the original record itself. And as you can see right here, I'm still in Family Tree Maker. You're right, my little tree's up here, but I'm using this window here to in Family Tree Maker to actually view my search results. And as you can see here, there's Alfred Lloyd and Nancy Taylor. Always look at the original image if it exists, because sometimes there is additional information. In this case, it lists the name of the minister that performed their marriage. And so I could go Google him and that location and see what denomination that they belong to. That might give me further clues as they moved about what church they may have been affiliated with, therefore what cemetery they are more likely to be buried in. Lots of different reasons why you want to always view that original image where possible. Now, if I just go back, I have little web browser buttons here, just like you do in your internet web browser, and I can use those back and forth here. And then you have a couple of options. Here's the best way to do this, in my opinion. Just write down here in your Family Tree Maker. On the left is the information from your tree, and on the right is the information from this record. So I can come here and I can say, okay, this is Alfred Lloyd, and they were married the 25th of December, 1838 in Shelby County, Tennessee, and his spouse's name is Nancy Taylor. Now in this case, it just says Shelby, Tennessee. And I prefer to have my places standardized a little bit differently. So I can edit right here any piece of information before I merge it. And that's important to know, especially if something has been transcribed incorrectly. So if it says one thing on the record and it says something else here, I can actually edit it just right here before I merge that. Now, I'm going to give you a caution. If it was wrong on the record, and the person who transcribed it or indexed it copied the record exactly, even if this information is wrong, I don't edit it at that point. And here's why. Because for me, part of the purpose of this documentation, of attaching this record, is to document the way that things are on the records. And so I don't want to change this information unless if it's wrong on the record, I'm going to just attach it the way it says on the record. If it's mistranscribed or misindexed, meaning the information here is different than the information on the original record, then I may make a correction before I merge my record. I hope that makes sense. That's really important that we document the way that things are on the records, even if the records may seem incorrect to us at the time. And hopefully for those of you who've been doing this a little while, that makes sense. For those of you who aren't quite sure how that works, hopefully you'll just trust me on this until you learn a little bit more. That's what we're doing. But one of the things I will do in many cases is I will come in and I will standardize my places. So in this case, I'll add USA to the end of that and click OK. And now I have a more standardized place before I merge my record. Okay. Now it's going to give me this option here to merge. So here's his name, and that's correct. So I'm going to click Next. And then it says, okay, what spouse do you want to attach it to? And you have three options whenever you're attaching a single record to multiple people. Your options at the bottom of the screen, for those of you who can't read this, are ignore this person, which means if I were to, and that's the little radio button that's checked. So if I was to click Next right now, it would attach the record to Alfred, but it would not attach the record to Nancy. Now, since this is a marriage record, I want to attach it to Nancy. So then my next option is add this person as a new person in your tree. Well, Nancy's already in my tree, so if I do that, then I'll have two wives named Nancy, so I don't want to do that. The third option is merge with an existing spouse in your tree, and that's the one that I want to do. Now, if this was a census record, it would list all of the children, and it would have the same options. It would just say merge with an existing child in your tree, and then you would select which child. So always pay attention to which one of these radio buttons is selected. If ignore is selected, it will not attach the record to the additional person. If add is selected, you're going to create a duplicate most likely, and so be careful of that. If they're not already in your tree, this is a great opportunity to do that. But if they are, it's going to create a duplicate. And then merge is going to be the one you're probably going to use most often, where I'm going to attach this record not just to Alfred, but also to Nancy. So I'm going to click Next. And now here is her name from my tree, and here is her name from the record, and they're exactly the same. And then here is the marriage date and place from my record, and the marriage date and place from the record, the marriage record. And I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And now one of the things that I don't just want the information sourced and documented, I also want a copy of that image as well brought into my computer. I want a copy of it put on my hard drive so that I always have access to it. And then I can look at the source citation here, the way that Ancestry.com has created it. And if I want to edit it in any way, I can click on that and make any changes to the way that the record has been sourced here. And some of you may want to add additional citation text or detail. You can do that here, or you can do it later. And then I'm going to click this Merge Now button. Nope. And it's merging. It's just flipped me over to my... There we go. Flipped me over to my PowerPoint screen for some reason. Okay, and then it says Merge Complete, and click Close to continue. And so I click Close, and here now this record has been merged. Now, if you want to just double check that it happened correctly, there are two places you can do that. Since I have an image that I'm attaching, I can just click on this little Media tab right here, and you'll see that image has been brought over because it shows up now in my Media tab in my tree. The other place I can look to see if this has attached correctly is I can come over here to this Person tab, and I can see now on his name and his marriage date, I have one source. And if I look over here, I can see that that source is the Tennessee State Marriage Database from Ancestry.com, and that there is media attached. So I can just double check that I did it correctly. I can even click on Nancy here and make sure that it attached to her as well. And that's how that works. So when we are doing web searches on Ancestry.com, it's really easy and simple and seamless, and I love it because you can just merge straight here and you can make sure you've got all the information correct, and it's fantastic. However, there are other places on the internet you can also search. So over here on the left, you may not be able to see it now, but hopefully in your Family Tree Maker, you can see this tiny little arrow. And if I just click that once, it's going to open up this search location panel on the left-hand side here. The defaults in the system are Ancestry.com, rootsweb.com, and genealogy.com. All three of those are properties owned by Ancestry.com as the parent company. And so you can search RootsWeb, which is a free internet site, or genealogy.com, which is a smaller subscription site. You can search either of those directly from Family Tree Maker. We've also included the 3 major search engines. So I can search Google, Bing, or Yahoo for my person as well. So let me just show you how a Google search works. We're going to look at Alfred Lloyd here. Every once in a while, if you want, you may just click new search. It'll refresh things for you. And here I am on Google. And now I'm going, and you'll see it's got some information that it's already entered here automatically. It's just pulled it from your tree into the search form. I'm going to go ahead and click search. And I hope you can see this because I love the way that the search interface works. So what it's done is it's actually taken Google Logic, which is the way that the Google search engine works, and it's created a search string based on that information. So it has given me options for his name, and you'll notice it's put quotations around it, which means show me Alfred Lloyd, not the word Alfred and the word Lloyd anywhere on a page, but the name Alfred Lloyd. Or show me Alfred Star Lloyd, and that star is a wild card. So for example, if he's listed with a middle initial or a middle name, it would catch that. Or show me Lloyd Alfred. As you know, many times when records are indexed and put on the internet, sometimes the last name comes first. And then also include this search term of genealogy or the search term of ancestry, right? And we're going to keep going on this search string. And then it says 1820 with a little ellipsis there, that ... and 1905. If you remember, 1820 is the year he was born, and 1905 is the year he died. And so what it will do is, the way that Google reads this, is it will find any year from this year to this year. So if the number 1820 or the number 1874 or 1901, whatever year is listed on the page, if it's in between these two dates and inclusive of these two dates, it will return that as a search result. So it fills in the search string for me when I do my search from inside Family Tree Maker. And then it returns these search results. So I can then go through my search results here like this. Now, if you're like me, this window feels a little bit limiting. It's a little small. I also, the embedded web browser in Family Tree Maker is Internet Explorer, and I have a different preference for my web browser, and so I can actually pop this window out into a web browser and use it there. So right here, there's this little icon for browser options, and I can open in new window. That's one of my options. So if I click that, what it's going to do is it's going to take those search results, these search results I'm just looking at here, and it's going to pop them out into a web browser and allow me to do some different things with them, some different manipulations with them. Okay, and so I can change things or work with things and do it that way. That works regardless of where I'm searching from. So I can come over here and I can search in Ancestry.com, and I can do the same thing here. Open a new window if I just want to work in a different window and have some more space here. Now you remember that 1880 census that was missing. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to search for that. And I happen to know that they were living in, I think, Navarro, Texas in 1880. So I'm going to just say, only show me people living in Navarro, Texas, and there they are. Okay, and so I'm going to click View Record, and again, I'm going to view the original, make sure it's really them. I transcribe information off the census into my notes, And then when I'm ready to save this record here for Alfred Lloyd and his wife and child that are living there, I can just copy this URL here. So I'm going to highlight this, and you can either right click and copy, or the shortcut for that is Control C. Then I'm going to go back into Family Tree Maker, and here in this URL bar I can paste that URL I just copied. So paste or Control V, either one. And now I'm looking here at exactly what I was looking at out here. So one of the things that this does for me, I prefer, so I keep my tree in Family Tree Maker. I sync it with Ancestry.com with my tree online. But rather than attaching records in both places, I prefer the merge feature in Family Tree Maker. I also prefer to only do it one way. I think there's less opportunity for error on my part that way. And so if I'm merging records here and I'm merging records there, and it just creates a little bit of confusion for myself. And so for consistency's sake, even if I'm viewing a record on Ancestry.com in a web browser here, I still will copy this URL, paste it into Family Tree Maker, and then do my merge from here. Okay? I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, maybe just review that again. Okay? So I'm merging all of my records directly here in Ancestry.com or in Family Tree Maker by just copying and pasting the URL from my web browser into Family Tree Maker. Okay, a couple of other things I want to talk about in our last couple of minutes here. You can also, so these 6 websites are the default when you get Family Tree Maker. You can then add whatever website you want to also search from within Family Tree Maker. Now you'll notice it just takes you to the website. It doesn't pre-populate a search form for you. However, because I am in my tree, I have all of the information right here, down here at the bottom in this panel. So the benefit of this is, especially for those of you who are operating with just a single computer screen, is you don't have to keep going back and forth between windows. Coming over here, you know, doing a search on this screen. And I've seen you do it. I do it when I'm only working from a single screen, where I start to type and then I have to come back over here and look for the information and then come back over here and enter it, right? The benefit of searching from directly in Family Tree Maker is that I can just come right in here and I can just copy the information from down here straight up into here with no chance of making a mistake or getting distracted or having it take twice as long. I can just come in here and I can say he died in 1905 and he lived in Texas, and let's see what we can find. And there, a little script error. I love Internet Explorer. So then I can just come here, and here's this record for him in Texas, and I can then, there are scripts on this page, and this Internet Explorer doesn't like them. And so then I can just merge the record directly from here, right? The way that you add those fields or add those search boxes, you just click over here on this new button, and you can search whatever website you want. So you could add, like, for example, I could add Cindy's List. If you're not familiar with Cindy's List, it's a great free resource provided by Cindy Howell. And she's basically cataloged the internet for genealogy sites, free, subscription, whatever. So I can add a URL here for the name of a website that I want to be able to access. And then I just give it a name that I can recognize in my list over here, and I click OK, and now you'll see Find a Grave really has some script issues here. And then you'll find right over here is the URL, and I can click on that, and it will take me straight to that website. And again, I can just do my searches directly in Family Tree Maker, where the information is readily accessible to me. I can always pop that into a new web browser, do some more searching in a bigger screen, and then copy that URL and paste it right back into here to do my merge from there. Hopefully that makes sense. That was a lot of information to cover, and darn, 20 minutes, 30 minutes seems like such a long time when I'm preparing, but then we get rolling and the time just goes so very quickly. So let me just review a couple of the things that we talked about and make sure I caught everything as I was going. Web search from within Family Tree Maker allows you to automatically search any website, any of those 6 websites that are defaulted. It also allows you to add any additional websites and gives you a little bit of an ease of search for them. For those 6 websites, you don't have to retype your search terms. It just pulls them automatically out of your tree. You can use that pop out, that's what I call it, that pop out feature here on this little thing where you just open it in a new window and it will take whatever you are looking at, put it into the web browser, your default web browser, whichever one you have set to be the default of choice, so that you can use your full web browser capabilities. And then if you want to merge or copy information, you can then copy and paste the URL from your web browser back into Family Tree Maker to be able to access that or merge that information into Family Tree Maker. Hopefully that all makes sense. As I said, I'm recording this a little bit early today because I've got to go speak at the National Genealogical Society's annual conference in just a few minutes. But I didn't want to miss out on today, so I won't be available live on chat immediately following today's presentation. However, we have some great helpful members of the community, and maybe 1 or 2 of our member services, our social support team, might be on chat, so feel free to ask your questions, help each other out, and I will see you next time. This is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.